Welcome again to Downey Center for Spiritual Living. And I'm Reverend Kevin. I'm bringing you the message today. And I am batting leadoff, as we would say at this time of year when a lot of interest turns to baseball. I like the subject of beloved community, and it's one of the growing edges of Centers for Spiritual Living of the Science of Mind and Spirit. You know, science of mind and spirit is sort of a provable metaphysical science that extends to the personal and to the dyad, to another person, and that function in the science of mind is the practitioner or the spiritual counselor. Now, Centers for Spiritual Living are in a constant process of evolving and growing. And in this case, we're developing the principles and practices of community. So we're deliberately extending the science of mind teaching to areas which really Ernest Holmes seeded in his promotion of this teaching and into communities. Remember that when Ernest began this process, it was a companion to other faith traditions. He didn't expect it to be something that would stand alone as a movement or a faith tradition. Now, it naturally evolved into that, and we're blessed, I'm blessed, I think that it did, because that was the way that I discovered the science of mind. Now, the principles and practices, at least the principles of this community, derive from what is called the beloved community. And this was first devised by the American philosopher named Josiah Royce. And many in Southern California know of the famous Royce Hall at UCLA. And that hall was named after Josiah Royce. So that's an important bridge to the philosophical and secular world. Now, those principles of the divine community were largely brought to life through the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. We often heard Howard Thurman and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. refer to building the divine community. So today, my intention is to, share some principles, some within our community, some borrowed from the beloved community, and how that's going to translate into a spiritual practice for you and within any group that you're a part of. Now, as I often say, the reason we're here today, the reason we're doing most anything along these lines of personal development is to feel better. We do spiritual practices to feel better. And our reason for practicing the divine beloved community is to feel better in and through that community, and thereby help others feel better in and through community. So there is a mutuality, a mutual benefit in this type of spiritual practice. And for the science of mind and spirit, it is to extend those practices beyond that dyad, beyond that practitioner. And that might apply to a primary relationship, a family, a group, a tribe, a community, that to circulate and connect all those facets of the one mind, the one love, of which you and I are an extension. So that is all God, whether it's me personally in my own little world, or whether it's me with another, or me with my family, or me with my community gathered here today. It is to live more good, to live more God. And we are all living in that one mind and one love. So the first thing that comes up, because I mentioned this becomes spiritual practice, are these kind of spiritual practices. There are daily spiritual practices. They are largely personal, but we also have communal versions of all of these, probably except for something like study or journaling. But these are things that I and folks do every day, even just for a little bit. Sometimes some practices getting more attention and more time than others. But those are practices of meditation, of affirmation, treatment, or affirmative prayer. The practice of doing some spiritual study or reading, the practice of journaling. and the practice of visioning, daily, largely personal. Now we switch to the ones that are less frequent. And those are sometimes weekly or monthly, but they arise out of that relationship. They arise out of that group context, right? So being of sacred service, yes, you can be in sacred service to yourself or to others, but more likely you're being in sacred service to a larger group. Spiritual counseling is you and one other with the practitioner or the spiritual counselor. Giving as a spiritual practice, that is you giving to someone or something. And the mystical, ethereal one that I'm attacking today or talking about today is beloved community. Just looking at the practice of beloved community, the qualities that stand out for me: generosity, harmony, balance, feeling a connection, being at peace, having a safe environment in which to be your true self, having some form of compassion. And though these communal practices, include or maybe require others to be of the same mind or the same heart, Reverend Sunshine always refers to us being a love-centered community versus, all a heart-centered community versus all of the same thinking. But it intensifies that practice when there are more people engaged in the same sort of practice. So us being gathered here today is kind of spiritually supercharged because we're all here, with similar intentions. We're all here with that intention to feel better, however that's working out for us today. But we are mutually sharing that intention for each other as we gather in these types of communities. And there's still, a personal part of this is that, you have to set that intention, prepare your consciousness, and make the conscious choice that whatever you're participating in can and is a high spiritual practice. And that is open to all the associated, that practice that is community, divine community is the term being coined here today, that has with it all that healing and growth opportunity that any other high spiritual practice offers. Now, so that's sort of in the ethereal realm, the realm of spiritual practice, right? And like pretty much all material beings, the viability of that material being beyond birth depends on at least one other adult being. In the case of a human baby, that one entity depends on a literal village, starting with the nuclear family. Your life, material and ethereally, functions around relationship in that case. Without those relationships, without those people, we would wither and die. With those people and those beings, those relationships, you thrive. Now, most know the two most important people, those who channeled you into this plane of the current rendition of your local organizing principle, and that is your two biological parents. Some of you know your 4 grandparents. Some of you know some of your 8 great-grandparents, right? Some of you might even know of one of your 16 great-great-grandparents, right? So after just, a lifetime, 80 to 100 Earth orbits, your material being is based on 16 people that are directly in line from whom your biological life descends and depends. Learning about family trees is very popular. There are a lot of services. There's genetic technology that folks can trace their material roots back 10 or more generations. And that means that 1,024 people you directly descend and depend on for your material being, that organizing principle you call your body temple as it exists today. So just consider the generations that made your life after birth possible, the folks who parented you, who may not have been your biological progenitors, right? Your real parents versus your biological parents. Sometimes they're not the same people. Perhaps your aunts, your uncles, your siblings, your cousins, all of these people have contributed to the advance of your body and therefore your soul. And their contribution was partly biological, but fully metaphysical. For you are the one life ongoing, as they are the one life ongoing. Now, the natural circulation and connection that results in promoting materiality is just but a glimpse of what is occurring in the ethereal. The essence of the center of who you are, the essence of the significant other, the family, the community, literally all that is the love and light of living spirit. You are the love and light of living spirit. Your parents are the love and light of living spirit. Your grandparents are the love and light of living spirit. Your brothers and sisters, your siblings are the love and light of living spirit. You get the idea. So consider who and what you be, ethereally, spiritually, is based on this ever-changing organizing principle that exists right now in this frequency and phase and amplitude. That is in existence right now because of others who have fostered that organizing principle along the way. So this human phase of your soul's journey is only happening due to others living and evolving the same divine organizing principle. So that's the important piece of this, and it's something that Ernest planted the seeds for, and now we are nurturing that seed. So now's a good time to introduce the new set of themes for October. Our annual theme is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. As Jan mentioned in her spiritual practice, our theme for October is Going Further Together. And we're going to hear about a number of different meanings to that throughout the month of October. And today we're talking about a term that was coined, I think, by Reverend Kathleen. Well, Reverend Kathleen Beasley prepared our material for today, and she's a spiritual director at Central Florida Center for Spiritual Living. So just walking us through this, the evolutionary vision part, the divine high idea for the divine community is one global family. Now that might manifest and demonstrate as a respect, an honor, an appreciation of the interconnectedness and interdependency of all life. The timeless wisdom comes from the we believe statements from the science of mind. So we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. And of course, where often discord appears in one's life is around some of those relationships where the life lessons are being learned. The other one is we believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. So the God in me is the same as the God in you, is the same God in this community, in this gathering. It's all one life, one God, and it's the same within as without. Now the context of going further together, the October monthly theme, consider that the communities that have brought you here, the families, the schools, the churches, the professional communities, the artistic communities, the athletic communities, on and on and on it goes. The Science of Mind and Spirit is open at the top. So in addition to being a kind of complete faith tradition, it's a community all of its own. And it also happens to work and play well with other faith traditions. The context for today's message is the divine community. And Dr. Martin Luther King spoke often of the beloved community, and that is a community, a world in which all people share the wealth of the earth, the wealth of nature, and the wealth of man, that any violation is compassionately recognized in order to be healed. It is a world in which there is collaboration and cooperation as the norm. It is a world in which there is a fluidity between roles within the community. At times you are led, and at times you lead. And there is a fluid flow between those kinds of roles. And there's a dedication to the common good in order for each person being within that community and the community itself to thrive. So there's a dedication to the common good that at times might appear to be more important than the individual good. It's really both. It's not either or. That's the that's the true science of mind perspective on this. There are a couple of the points that I want to offer up here. First of all, about community in general, but in specific to the divine community. We've heard this phrase, be in it, but not of it, right? And it's an acceptable mind game, meaning, hey, I'm aware of my surroundings, but I may not identify with it. I may not be a conscious supporter of it, but I'm aware of being in relationship to other beings or other things. And so that is a process of honoring in one another the confidence and the courage to release all that no longer supports your journey or the community's journey. Consider that the divine community as another complete spiritual being. If two people in a primary relationship, there is person A and person B, or person A and person 1. And then between them, there is sort of another kind of metaphysical entity, which is the relationship that they are contributing and deriving from. The divine community then is another complete spiritual being. Its manifestation and derives from the one divine organizing principle. And like all spiritual beings within and surrounding the divine community, every necessary resource for spiritual healing, for growth and revelation of more good, more God is present in that community. So Ernest Holmes says, love is the only final security in the universe. Love is the greatest healing power in the universe, and the only thing that binds people together in a community of spirit. So divine community is an almost alchemic when it's working well, and it's really zinging. It is an alchemical reaction that reminds you who and what you are capable of being and becoming. It's urging you forward. It's drawing you to that edge of your comfort zone in order for you to have more love and light and peace and joy and health and well-being in your life. This divine community at times has a heavenliness, a rightness with the world, we will call it, and the divine community is with you anytime and anywhere you consciously choose it, engage it, immerse, and you're doing so in something that is co-creative and collaborative. So you just set that intention wherever you are to be in divine community, whether it's the grocery store or the bank or your job or your home or wherever. If you set that intention, all of those resources are available to you, and you open the door for something that is collaborative and co-creative. Ernest Holmes also said, compassion and caring are the ties that bind us together in mutual understanding and in the unified attempt to uncover their divinity in each other. Could there be a more clear seed planted for the divine community than this quote from Ernest Holmes? So the beloved community with good intentions at times prefers the many over the one. And in those instances, shared connections are the better choice to express and experience and circulate more God qualities. Remember, beloved community is fluid, and at times you consciously choose to set aside your individualism for the sake of the greater good. You understand or you recognize or something intuits within you that the godness, the goodness is better lived in the communal us. And then Brene Brown offers up this, which I think is really powerful and really true. She says, a deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. You're biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. So belonging is a sort of paradox, especially in the science of mind context, where this is, largely a teaching of personal personal spiritual empowerment. But what really is called for is a quality of balance. and remember that balance is a God quality. From your birth, your very biological survival relies on belonging. Your biological being is a fairly high priority in many other people's lives long before you were able to ask for it. Yet folks feel they are on a lifelong path of individuation, carving out their expression, their experience as they move through this phase of their soul's journey. So depending on the culture in which one lives, the path to individuation is sometimes out of balance with the communal, and in some cases, that in other cultures, the opposite is true, where there is more emphasis given to the communal than the personal. And so to strike that balance, one must first intend to balance community with individuality. And therefore, there is a sorting process. There is a conscious awareness on your part, my part, to choose carefully what communities I immerse myself in, and also to what degree I'm immersing that community to be in balance with where I am on my personal journey. So when you're feeling that personal part, you hopefully are all in for communing with that universal intelligence, however that might appear, whether it's in your personal life, that appearance of individuality, or in your communal life, where again you're pitching into the common good, yet there's a mutual benefit where you're deriving a common good by your participation in that community. Now, truly, you're never on your own because you are always communing and co-creating with living spirit, and that living spirit lives all life. Thich Nhat Hanh put it this way: the larger your beloved community, the more you can accomplish in the world. The larger your beloved community, the more you can accomplish in the world. Okay. So I leave you today with an affirmation. I practice divine love wherever I am. I practice divine love wherever I am. So I encourage you to set these intentions, that you practice divine community when you consciously deepen your connections with one another, that you practice divine community when you stretch yourself to further justice, peace, and compassion, that you practice divine community when your love and compassion knows no bounds, that you practice divine community when you mindfully bond to the heart and soul of all life, that you practice divine community when you companion with each other through the joys and sorrows of life, that you practice divine community when you welcome each other home. Thank you so much. Peace and blessings to all of you.